What's up, guys and gals? It's time for the latest piece of One Piece. Chapter 1130, entitled The Accursed Prince. Now, who could they possibly be talking about? We're going to the Giant Island. We're on Elbaf. We're in Legoland, in fact. So, who could they possibly be? It's Loki. 100%. And we get some stuff that I'm a little confused by. And normally, I am too busy to be doing these reviews when they drop and stuff like that. I usually have plans around this time of day, yada, yada, yada. And normally, when I'm cooking or whatever, Tekking's already brought out his thing and he clears up this shit for me. But the thing is, I haven't had a chance to do that. So, we're winging this one. I've read the chapter already. We're winging it, but I don't have all that extra Tekking wiki knowledge in the back of my head. So, going through this, my initial thoughts are, number one, who the hell just stole Yamato's sword? Like there's the sword, and they're sleeping, and there's Otama, and there's Shinobu and stuff, and somebody didn't steal the Kanabo, stole the sword. Okay. So who is this mysterious figure? Stealing children, running away from Yamato. Inarashi apparently is useless as a daimyo. We have no idea. But yeah, so the cover serial does continue. Now, for the first part of the chapter is basically like, and I really like this, Frankie, Jinbei, Robin, Brooke, like the ones left behind are sitting there on the Straw Hat Crew, and they're like, yeah, we searched enough and we're kind of running out of food and booze here, so don't worry about it. They said they'd meet us on Elbaf. See, the Straw Hat Crew has been split up so many times, and especially the time skip. The time skip proved that it doesn't matter. We'll find each other eventually. We know where you were headed. You were headed to Wano. You're headed to Whole Cake. You're headed to your own destinations. We will reconvene in 2 years. That's a promise. Go figure. They do it. They do it every time. So Frankie is like, listen, guys, and Dory and Bragi and the rest of them are like, are you insane? We haven't found the Straw Hat Crew. What's going on? And Frankie's just like, you bet their ass they're alive. Thanks for looking, though. But once again, I'm sure they'll find us in due course. Let's just continue our journey, right? Robin's confident in Jinbei, and this is the difference of the Straw Hats. This is a faithful crew. I like to think that Roger's crew is the same. Once again, inherited will coming down. But I also like to believe that this is how Shanks's much smaller crew, bigger than the Straw Hats, smaller than most Emperor crews, once again, quality over quantity maybe. I like to feel like they're the same idea. They all have perfect amount of faith in each other in that regard. And they're like, yeah, we're not worried. We're good. You know? And Jinbei even says he sent out his whole shark, like he was talking to the fish, and I was like, I forgot about, like, sometimes you forget how useful Jinbei is. We have a fucking warlord on the Straw Hats. You know, not from just a power scaling perspective is that a huge deal. That's why Kid and Law were like, are you fucking kidding me right now? You know, like Jinbei could be a rival captain to these guys on his own. And now he just added his whole power. Like, he's just like, shit. So, anyways, and they're all like, yeah. So it's all good. Now, they're like, it's decided. Let's set a course for Elbaf. We're all good. That being said, still don't see the Thousand Sunny anywhere. So I'm assuming that the Thousand Sunny did disappear. I don't remember them mentioning that, but I might have missed that detail. But yeah, the Thousand Sunny is clearly gone because they stay on the ship and they're like, let's just head for Elbaf. So Frankie and them, they're not going their own direction. They're just going to say, hey, Dory, Bragi, we're good. Let's go to Elbaf. All right, fine, dandy. So it's like, let's go. Now we cut away from this scene and we go to that they finally broke out of, you know, Rhodes, Legoland thingy like that, and Luffy and everyone, they're like, woohoo, yay! And it's like, it's winter time. And it's magical and it's huge and there's this castle on a cliff. This looks like a Minecraft wet dream right here. This is the type of shit. Giant, long rope bridge, clearly leading to what looks to be like the beginning of Yggdrasil. Because they say, it looks like a mountain. Is that a mountain? And it's like, no, but I see a branch. I see a tree branch silhouetted. I'm assuming that everywhere on this plane, which is probably, I'm going to assume this is the Jotunheim. Like, where it's Winterland. It's where, spoilers, a certain prince is chained up. and we're seeing that it's winter here, right, and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, and it's at the bottom. It's at the base of the tree, or almost the base of the tree sort of idea. So this is sort of fitting into that narrative. I'm going to assume that this little section off where he can do what he wants and stuff, as we're about to find out, Rhodes isn't supposed to be doing what he's doing, obviously, and even his own comrades don't think too highly of him. But it's a beautiful shot. It's like, oh my god, it's freaking cold here. What's going on? And we see Goldberg, the cook of the new Giant Warrior Pirates, alongside of Gerd, now the ship's doctor. Now, they're going to check on Rhodes because they're like, you're sure, because she's got this owl, and this owl called Piper. I don't remember this owl, but maybe a Cup Serum, maybe a Viva card, I don't know. But this owl is awesome. Just like, she's just walking around, looking like an absolute babe, and fucking like, hey, you're sure that you saw Rhodes' crows like go after more intruders and stuff, and they're talking about this, like, so basically, to summarize, it's a big no-no. He's not supposed to do this. Intruders, anybody from the outside, any non-giant coming through is pretty much an intruder into Elbath. They do not take kindly to intruders. Anybody unsanctioned to come to Elbath is considered an intruder, and no. So the fact that he's actually stealing people and bringing them there is still a big no-no. So they're there to go check it out and be like, all right, Piper saw this, so we got to go. And they also talk about the fact that he's a crackpot. He's crazy. And Gerd even says he should be the shame of Elbath even more than Loki. Now, when we find out, or from what we understand of what Loki, who he is, and what he's done, that is actually a bit of a stretch. And I'm just like, okay, so Rhodes, like the only reason he's on the crew is because he's obviously a very skilled navigator and stuff, and that's a response by Goldberg. But Gerd is just like, I cannot stand him. He's a sham and a shame and all these things, and like more so than Loki. And I'm like, all right, so he's a little creepy, right? I mean, and he's also, well, considering he's literally making like a live video game for himself, his own live D&D with actual people. See, if you were to do that in a horror movie setting, that would be worse than just killing your dad for money. You know what I mean? That happens in real life all the time. I want the inheritance, daddy, boom. And that's, and we send those people to prison, yada, yada, yada. But I feel like the spoiled brat who kills his dad for money is probably a little better than the dude who kidnaps innocent men, women, and children and strings them up to be his personal playthings in a land of fantasy. If we would actually put this is a horror aspect. Actually, I know it's fantastical and fun at the moment, but these people have been suffering for years. Even Mr. riding the grasshopper motorcycle, this is the Grass Harley Hopper 3.5. So, yeah, now that I stop to think about it, yeah, no. At first I was going to argue, really? He's just a little creepy playing, and he's a little, he's going against the law, and he's weird, but, I mean, and now it's like, actually, when you stop to think, yeah, no, Loki, from what we understood, has only killed one person for fortune. That's, it's not good, but as far as the whole shame of the giant race, I'm just saying, yeah, so maybe she's got a point there. So anyways, now Luffy, these guys would have been totally fine with this, because Hiruden, obviously, and they're going to go to Elder Jarl once they figure all this out. And Luffy immediately wants to shout out to these giants who would have picked him up. Hey, it's Straw Hat. Yeah, Hiruden, just because Rhodes didn't agree with this, I would probably go under the assumption that Hiruden had most of the support of his crew, except for creepy D&D Arlong over there, of the Giants. Other than him, I would assume that the majority of the crew was like, yeah, okay, we're following Straw Hat Luffy, the 5th Emperor at the time. We're following Straw Hat Luffy. Like, this is, all good. And he's only gone up in the world, so that rises fame and fortune. I assume that this would have gone off without a hitch. However, I like what happens because of what happens. So Usopp is like, yes, we're finally in Elbath. This is fantastic. Sanji's freaking out over Gerd and stuff like that, being like, yeah, goddamn. And, Luffy wants to call out. Nami prevents this. And they just keep trekking onto this little castle fortress that Rhodes has set up, right? Now, this is where Zoro, Luffy, and everyone, they're just walking on by. And he's hearing the Gers and all this stuff. He's hearing something, and he's noticing, and these are giant wolves below the rope bridge, and they're just looking for a morsel and stuff, and they're climbing along this place at a pretty steady pace, when Zoro basically says, what's wrong, Luffy? Like, what are you doing up there? Like, what are you sensing? And Luffy's the one saying, you feel that? I'm getting goosebumps here, that something's out there, something's down there, and he can tell. Immediate thought, Loki has the Will of D. That's my immediate thought as to why he's initially he's getting this vibe, he's getting this presence, this sense. Luffy's gotten more and more attuned, especially since he's obtained Gear 5th, his Conqueror's Haki, and etc. He's much more in tune with these parts of himself, as we know, and with the Nika form and stuff like that. I firmly believe he's more in tune than ever, and I really do feel like that's the key, that Loki does have the Will of D. We'll have to wait to find out, but that's my theory going into this. So, anyways, everyone's like, nope, you can't go. And Zoro's like, yeah, alright, well, then, like, let's take a little look-see. And Sanji's immediately like, nope, you don't go anywhere, you'll be lost the entire damn arc. Stay the fuck down, Zoro. And I'm like, for once, because I like Sanji. People don't think I like Sanji because Zoro is clearly will win 10 out of 10 fights against Sanji. But outside of the power scaling of that, I really like Sanji. I like Sanji as a character. There's moments I don't like about Sanji, but I do like Sanji. And this is a great moment of like, yeah, no, Zoro, listen to Sanji. He knows. It's like, Zoro, no. So I do like that. You are off limits. Everywhere you go, we are keeping you the whole time, right? So either way, Luffy mentions, I heard something back there in the block country too. A roar, quote unquote, coming from down there. And so Luffy just jumps down immediately, and everyone's like, oh my shit. And then we jump back to the Elbath ship. I forget if we've gotten a name for the giant ship, the giant warrior pirate ship. And they've managed to obtain a newspaper. Dorian Broggy got a 1.8 billion. 1.8 billion berry bounty. Okay. So, I know some people are not going to like this. But in actual fact, it makes sense to a degree. Is it a little high? Yes. I think it's a little high. I think just shy of $1 billion, or maybe 1.1. It should be closer to 1 billion than 2 billion. Absolutely. However, let's put this in context. These guys, inflation is a thing. Inflation has happened due to the pandemic. Inflation in most countries, and especially in the first world countries, has risen exponentially. We are paying over 50 to 75% more easily on every product in a grocery store. And personally, where I live, I'm paying over 100% more. The prices of an on-sale item have doubled in the last 5 years. So, Robin actually brings this up, doesn't use the word inflation, but basically mentions that you guys had 100,000 berry bounty back when they thought you were alive. You were at 100 million. Okay, 100 million. Nothing to sneeze at, but, crazy jump to 1.8. Not really. Let's consider it was 100 million over 100 years ago. And if inflation can go over 50, 75, 100% just by one little 3-year pandemic, imagine what 100 years has done. Roger started the Golden Pirate Age and died in this span of time. All the craziness that's happened in the last 20, 30, 50 years all happened. Dorian Broggy had 100 million. So they come back from the dead, these dangerous giants with 100 berry bounty from 100 years ago. Just talk to a grandparent and ask them how much money they made per hour, per week. I make about 35. In the 40s, taking home $40 a week was livable. Not great, but livable. $40 was a man with a steady job raising a family. $40. Okay? Just go watch old movies and start to do the math. That's only 80 odd years ago. You can imagine. So the math actually maths here, not only because inflation would say it must, but not only that, these two not only come back from the dead, two of the, probably some of the highest catch these guys back 100 years ago, come back from the dead, big berry increase there, because they don't know the circumstances behind this, and then, on top of that, they attack Egghead, seemingly destroy it, Vegapunk is killed, and they are allied with a brand new Emperor of the Sea, who just escaped an Admiral and a Buster Call and the 5 Elders. Yeah. When you put all that in perspective, inflation alone would say they'd be in the billion. But all that's happened, the extra 600 odd million more than they might be overkill, is from just yesterday. Everything that happened yesterday with these guys. They thwarted the strongest members of the government, destroyed the facility. They didn't get their hands on the right technology. The Gorosei were defeated. Vegapunk is dead. All these crazy things that would give anybody hundreds and hundreds of millions of berry bounty, So, yeah, actually, when I first saw it, I was like, that's crazy. That's insane. And then when you actually let the math do its math, that's all I'm saying. And it works. It does work out. So, anyways, Robin has to read the paper to them because obviously the paper's, this one, and they're like, we cannot read that, And Dory and Brugger are even like, wow, that's actually quite a bit. It's like, we did not intend on making a comeback to the world of piracy. We were just there to pick up Luffy. We're just Luffy's. And that's the thing. They are probably now, knowing that they're not members of the Straw Hat crew, it's like the literal heroes, the legends, the Garps of the Garps and the Rogers and the Sengokus, the legends of Elbaf, one of the strongest races in the world. It's just like we don't attack the samurai. You don't attack Elbaf. They do, the government does not try because they are too strong on their own. The heroes, the ones leading that charge, are allied with our worst enemy. One of our top enemies in the world. It's like, yeah, this is just going to skyrocket anybody. It's like, oh my shit, they got, So, yeah, it just makes a ton of sense, right? So, and Robin brings up, as I said, prices would have changed a great deal in the last 100 years. And this is a reasonable amount and stuff. Then they see this shot of Vegapunk and Gear 5th Luffy. Gear 5th Luffy has the X on his arm. And my first thought when I read the chapter was, you know who? Mr. Bon Clay, the man, the myth, the legend. And I was like, yes, it must be Bon Clay. And I was like, none of that makes any sense. So I first thought, okay, if they were getting pictures, like, how did they get, because they questioned, my reasoning for this was, how did they get these pictures? Somebody must have been paid a great deal to, when was this taken? How did they get these pictures? Like, who survived and managed to get the pictures so quickly? Like, Jinbei and Brook are just like, yeah, this is kind of fishy how they managed such quick close-up of Gear 5th Luffy. Also, the X is weird, and Robin points out it looks like a Photoshop job. So, but until that point, I went, is the reason being is that Bon Clay, who has touched Luffy before, would be able to impersonate him and might be able to, as long as he knew that Luffy, like, could he copy a Gear 5th Luffy because he touched Luffy back in the day? So I got to thinking, I'm like, maybe he's posing for these pictures, sort of like the, Peter Parker posing for himself to take Spider-Man photos almost idea, like it's a trick. It's not really, you know what I mean? It crossed my mind. I was thinking the Spider-Man thing. I was thinking the Photoshop. I was thinking all this stuff. And then I was like, but why would Bon Clay... First off, why where is he? What's happening? What's going on? Why would he pose like this? Yada, yada, yada. And the X. That was my second piece of evidence. Was like, okay, the X, who would have seen that? And who would have known that it was there was due to Bon Clay. The reason they put the X there was directly because of Bon Clay back in Alabasta. And I said, okay, maybe I'm onto something here. This is like a photo op so that they can sell big news and stuff, and Morgans has paid Bon Clay, if for what reason, I don't know, and stuff. And that's where my theory started to fall apart. So I was like, okay, the X makes sense because Bon Clay would have known about it because he was the direct reason they had the X's in Alabasta. That's when he touched him. So maybe he figured it was a permanent tattoo or something like that. Who knows? However, once again, how and why would Bon Clay be involved in this? And number two, it makes far more sense, as Robin brings up, when he turns into that freedom form, does he have this mark on his arm? And he says it clearly looks off, like the arm is blurry and this mark is crystal clear. And then it all hit me. And then, of course, because we all know what the X represents, but nobody here was on the Alabasta team to save Vivi. Robin is the only one who was there, and she was not privy to that information. Technically, she was on the ship when they all did this, but, so she's like, it seems familiar. So she probably noticed it in passing when she first joined after leaving Crocodile. But, yeah, I'm just sitting here and I'm just thinking, that's the reason for this. It's because they would immediately recognize this and be like, the only person who would have known that who's not with us is Vivi. So my whole Bon Clay, I was on the right track. It's got to do with Alabasta. But I think I got the wrong character. I like my Bon Clay theory because it's got a couple of good points, but a few too many holes. Vivi trying to get a message out to the Straw Hats to let them know, please, either a sign to come rescue me, like I'm with Morgan, or I'm alive and I'm okay, to send a message. Either or, only the 6 on Elbaf right now would know what this means. Because Robin, once again, was not privy to the information. She sees the mark and knows she knows it, but that's the best she's got. So that was the reason for the division. It was also like, let's get back. Everyone was theorizing, why is that the case? It's because we needed to create the drama here. I don't mind it that much. It's kind of obvious, and it's like, really, Oda? Those particular 6 and stuff like that? But still, I was like, all right, fine dandy and stuff like that, right? So Dory brings up that Luffy is, I was about to say something else. Luffy is on the same standing as Red Hair, that he's a Yonko now and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, wow, that's crazy. And they were like, even Hiruden is under your umbrella. Like the new Giant Warrior Pirates follow your lead and stuff. That's crazy and stuff. And then they remark that rambunctious whippersnapper Hiruden is the king's son. Did you just drop that information? Like, wait a minute. So Odin? And then it's like, no, not Odin. I'm like, wait, what? who's the king if not Odin, the Allfather? Who's the king? And then we have the elders like Fallbeard and this guy and the other and the Jarl or whatever they called him up here later. There was another like an elder like, yeah, we'll talk to Elder Jarl. And I'm like, okay, so this is just all. I'm wondering what the hierarchy is going to be, because we've had no mention of Thor as far as I know, and we have mentioned Loki as a prince, but brother of Hyrudin of all people, who happens to be maybe the firstborn or whatever, but basically, like. There's a lot to unpack here. There's so much to unpack here because, so we initially have the fact that Hyrudin is the king's son. We're not sure who's eldest or whatever like that. Loki is also the king's son. This makes Hyrudin and him brothers. Are we going to do the whole half-brother thing or something like that? Who knows? But Hyrudin is the son of the king, and this king is dead, and this king is not Odin. Okay, I don't know what the hierarchy is, but anyways. So they tried to explain and said, back when our captains went missing, of course, Dorian Bragi, Elbath has another prince. They call him the Accursed Prince because he devoted himself to darkness, and a few years ago, just a few short years ago, so basically pre-time skip, maybe the year before, he was sentenced to crucifixion. He tried to flee, but the warriors all came together and got him. Alright, so once again, without Dorian Bragi, that's pretty impressive. And he goes, what? All the warriors of Elbath. And it's like, wait, all the warriors. It's like, okay, so they literally needed the whole strength of the army to stop Loki. That's impressive as fuck. And they say that he's not right in the head. There's a legendary devil fruit. Oh. My theory is moon god, but we'll continue. There's a legendary devil fruit said to be passed down through the royal family of Elbath. His desire to eat it was so great he killed his own father, King Harold. Harold. Giant King Harold. That does not sit right with me. Harold is the name of an intern, you know? Harold's the nice old man who keeps a pretty nice Gulf Green lawn, you know what I mean? Hey, who's that? That's old man Harold. Harold is not a very kingly name to me. But anyways, I digress. Point is, not Odin, not the Allfather, but King Harold was killed by Loki to obtain this legendary devil fruit. They don't say whether he successfully A, got it, or B, ate it. But now he is tied up. He is chained up. And that's why we won't let him ever again, let him go. Because if Loki ever escapes, it will be the end of everything. He's the shame of Elbath. Then we jump to a beautiful double-page spread. But I just want to mention this right now is that, but if he escapes, he'll be the end of everything. Makes me believe he did successfully steal this legendary devil fruit, which I'm sure has some connection to the Goma Goma no Ni, something to the sun god. It's either the reverse, it's the yin yang thing, it's the moon god fruit, or the maybe it is the water no Mi. Maybe it is the one to control, because that would make sense. A legendary devil fruit to have the power to end everything. A world made of water, if you can control the seas, you're done. The ancient weapons got nothing on you. So it could have a connection to the sun god fruit, maybe like a moon god or something parallel somewhere around there. Or, once again, it could be literally the sea fruit, the water no Mi. You know, something that literally the ocean fruit. So, maybe. But if it's legendary, I'm feeling like it's going to be bigger and badder than Kaido's fruit, bigger and badder than Big Mom's fruit, you know what I'm saying? Like something crazy like that. So, given all that, we get this double page spread. Loki looks fucking amazing. This is Loki. This is Loki. He looks awesome. He's chained up. I didn't expect the Cheshire grin and the tongue. The bandaged eyes. This dude looks sick. This is not what I expected, but he's got the horns, baby. He's got the horns. This is Loki. He's massive. He's chained up. He's huge. Still think he's got the Will-O-Dee. Or what Luffy is hearing is, once again, it does have a connection. This legendary fruit, which once again, the Elbath gods and stuff like that, the warriors Elbath revere the sun god Nika. This fruit has probably some connection to Nika. Boom. Here we go. State your name. I'm Monkey D. Luffy. I'm the man who's going to be king of the pirates. He's just looking up at him. And he says, king. And then where, and then Luffy asks, where is this place? Who are you? We see the giant shot of, yep, this is Elbath. Now, Elbath spelt with PH here on the title, though for the rest of it, it's been spelt with an F on the end. So I'm assuming it's pronounced the same, Elbath. You pronounce it as PH as an F. But is that the true spelling of Elbath finally? Who knows? And we're seeing the multiple realms of Yggdrasil. Clearly, they are down in Jotunheim. We see all the winter, we see all the storms and everything. There's a layer of the Yggdrasil tree, and up above we see a bunch of buildings and a city that seems to be, and a bunch of cannons on the left and a giant sword on the right and stuff. And this looks like it's in summer mode. Now, the top of the tree, we don't see the very tip top. Probably where the royal palace is, I'm going to assume. But we are getting the realms. We are getting the layers. And this is where he says, this is the warland, the mighty kingdom of Elbath. They say it is the birthplace of war. I am the sun god. I see so many people claiming to be the sun god here. I am the sun god who will bring about the end of the world, Loki. And everything's gone crazy. 2-week break, however, ladies and gentlemen. 2-week break. And I'm saying, Oda, you fucking deserve it. Because I did hear some people, so that's the end of the review, but I did hear a number of people complaining because the way people interpreted Oda saying he's going to take a couple of weeks and just decide, all right, how am I going to handle this and determine stuff for the story. And a lot of people are saying, you've been wanting to get to Elbath, you've been bringing this up for years, do you mean you don't even have a plan right now and stuff like that? It's like, no. He maybe he's talking about the best way to transition into all the things he wants to do from this chapter on. Maybe he is talking about the next 10, 12 chapters. He wants to have more of a storyboard, more of a plan, more of a pacing flow to get to everything without rushing everything, right? Maybe. But, once again, don't always trust exactly how it's directly translated. And he could be talking about he's just going to take a couple of weeks to determine, all right, I've got all these crazy ideas to Elbath. Let's either put them in order, or he's talking about, okay, when we get to the climax of Elbath, I'm planning stuff beyond. I'm planning stuff for the third act of Elbath, or I'm planning stuff for beyond Elbath and how I'm going to handle all this and what I want to bring up here, there, everywhere. Just because he says he's working on the story for the future of the story doesn't mean he's working on the next 3 chapters and he's got no clue. It could mean, hey, I got the next 25 chapters laid out. I want to plan out the next 25, right? Maybe I need some storyboards. Maybe I got to figure out where the placement should go. Who's going to battle who? This, that, the other thing. Right? So, once again, Oda, take your bloody time. Manga have always been overworked in this industry, and I will gladly wait 2 weeks now that we're finally in Elbath. I'm willing to wait. Okay? I'm a Bleach fan. I've been waiting a long time, and I still don't blame Kubo one bit. I've been waiting. I got a Hellverse chapter. It was fire, and I will patiently wait for when the second Hellverse chapter comes out. I just want Kubo to be healthy and in the mindset to make it mwah. And anybody complaining who is a Hunter x Hunter fan, go away. You got no room to talk, okay? So yeah, it's so funny that people complain, but then they once again are the first. I've brought this up before. People complain about breaks, and then they're the first ones to jump on the whole, the manga industry is fuck, these people are worked to the bone, they're worked like dogs, blah, blah, blah. Something should change with that. They're the first ones to say, I would be happy with a monthly, One Piece if it meant Oda's health and blah, blah, blah. They're the first ones to say that when something bad happens to one of our mangaka, the Berserk author, the mangaka of Yu-Gi-Oh!, a number of Akira Toriyama, just a number of other ones that have actually died young due to stress and overwork and exhaustion and stuff, and when series get canceled and stuff. And I just find it's like, pot, kettle, little bit there, but anyways, that's not the point of this video. I love this chapter. I thought this chapter was fire. It kept me engaged. I'm glad we don't spend a whole lot of time in the Lego world. Not the hugest fan. Glad it was just a niche to get us into where we're going. I'm fine with that. And now we're into Elbaf proper. I love it. And Dorian Broggy and the rest of the Straw Hats, they're on their way. So they're not going to be very long. So let's go. Let's go. And potentially Oda jumps over to somebody else. 2-week break. We started Elbaf, but maybe we want to jump over and see what's going on with the Blackbeards, or maybe the Admirals, maybe somebody else. Just saying, this would be the proper time to do that transition after a 2-week break, and we just entered Elbaf proper. We know there's a lot going on, but maybe now we could take that, hey, here's what's going on in the rest of the world for a couple chapters. And then we're going to go back to Elbaf. Maybe that's the plan. And the 2-week break is so that doesn't feel very jarring or disappoint people. Possible. Anyways, that's it from me, guys. Long-ass review, but there was a lot to talk about. It was a great chapter. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, Oda, take your time and keep writing that greatness, man. That's all I can say. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you guys back here next time in 2 weeks' time for the next piece of One Piece. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys are too. See you. Screwed that up. So I'm not going to edit that. Jesus. Yeah, I'm about to get tongue-tied in a 40-minute review. Yeah, I'm leaving that in. Sayonara. See you later. Whatever I was trying to say. Bye.